This question has been asked the last few days on a couple shows. Who would you draft number one, Tua or Burrow?
Yeah, this is a wild question because I understand that going into the year, the tank for Tua situation was a real situation. I mean, that was a real conversation. Tua was this guy who came into Alabama and was able to drop a ball into a bucket with his offhand. Remember, he is a righty. His dad forced him to be a lefty, and he was able to pick apart defenses in the SEC, something that Alabama didn't always do. Alabama normally relied on their running back, their offensive line, and good defense, and then Tua gets in there, wins a national championship by picking people apart. And he was this proto-style quarterback where he could sit back in the pocket, he looked good, and he could really dissect defenses and all these things. Top prospect, everybody's eyes. Nobody even knew who Joe Burrow was. We talked to Todd McShay. Todd McShay said Joe Burrow was probably a 5th round, 6th round pick going into this last season. So whenever Tua yet again has another injury with his hip and his ankle, and he's had 3 surgeries in 2 years, and you watch this Joe Burrow growth in an NFL offensive system like he had with Joe Brady as his offensive coordinator, to think that you would still take an injured Tua who says he's going to be healthy by April, but do we know, over a guy who has one of the hottest heaters right now in the history of sports, who already has an NFL offense, who has grown from 16 touchdowns to 60 touchdowns in one particular year. To say that you would take Tua over Joe Burrow would be a very dumb thing, but I do believe Tua, with 1 year of, rest, 1 year of rehab, 1 year of maybe learning behind a veteran quarterback, could still be a very, very good NFL quarterback. But there's no way a GM right now could pick Tua over Joe Burrow, because if Tua gets hurt, that GM is immediately fired, because everybody in the fan base, everybody in the organization would say, well, no, doy, dummy. So that's a dumb question, I think. But I like the fact that it spurs conversation. I just think Joe Burrow is the obvious answer there. He's earned it. And will the Cincinnati Bengals mess it up? Maybe. Carolina Panthers hire his offensive coordinator. Now everybody's like, are the Carolina Panthers in play to make a play for Joe Burrow? If the Cincinnati Bengals mess this layup up, mess up this alley-oop, if they LeBron James that thing off the side of the rim, and they decide to trade out of there and not get a new franchise player, a new face of the team, an Ohio kid that looks like he would love that opportunity, if they end up trading out of there to get more picks and let somebody else pick them up, they are going to look stupid. But I think that's what Bengals fans have come to expect of the Bengals organization. I just don't think there's any chance they do it. But if any team was to do it, the Cincinnati Bengals or the Detroit Lions would do it.
Now, people would say this is driving the price up on Burrow, but Bengals coaches are already talking that Burrow checks all the boxes.
Yes. Well, hello there. Utilize the promo code PAYTHEBILLS and get $20 off your first order from SeatGeek. Now, back to the magic. He checks all the boxes, and he's from Ohio, which is just a whole nother level for Ohioans, I would assume. Mm-hmm. And the fact that the Athens County food drive, and he's already a hero to the state. He's on this incredible heater. He smokes cigars. He's this Midwestern. I mean, it's just, he's everything that you would want if you're the Cincinnati Bengals organization. But look for teams to try to bait the dum-dums at the Bengals out of that situation to make a mistake and potentially miss out on a franchise player. Also, look for a lot of smoke screens from teams that are behind in the draft to build up Tua to be better than Joe Burrow, just in an attempt to hopefully persuade the Bengals to build up Tua. There's a lot of smoke screen. There's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of teams that are hoping to make other people make other decisions. It's a lot of chess, a lot of poker, a lot of setup. I think Joe Burrow is just the perfect candidate for the Cincinnati Bengals. This is just like when Andrew Luck was taking visits. He was at the Colts. He took a visit to the Colts before the draft, and I happened to see him there. And West Virginia is our tie. His dad was the athletic director at West Virginia at the time. He knew a lot about Morgantown and all that stuff, so he knew who I was, and obviously I knew who he was. And I was in the training room, and he walked in. He was meeting everybody. I was like, Andrew, what's up, man? Your life's got to be pretty hectic. He was like, yeah, I got to go to the Washington Redskins tomorrow or whatever. And I was like, why? Like, have we not already told you we're drafting? He was like, well, I have to take all the visits, Pat. I was like, well, if we don't draft this guy, I mean, we're making a mistake. And he couldn't say anything, but it was still like he had to do all his, his visits and things like that. There's stuff that's going to start happening that's going to come out about how good Tua is and all this stuff. They're going to be trying to persuade the Bengals that for some reason to take Tua instead of Joe Burrow. And honestly, if the Bengals mess this up, if the Bengals trade out of there and let another team get Joe Burrow, I will love it. I will absolutely love it because it gives us a lot to talk about. But Bengals fans wouldn't deserve that. I think Joe Burrow is obviously number one.
You want a dumb take?
Yeah.
A team that could do it and has the ammo to do it, Jacksonville. They have 2 first-round picks from L.A. in this year and next year's draft. So they have 4 first-round picks in the next 2 years.
Well, the Jacksonville wouldn't be dumb to do that. I don't think the Bengals would be the ones that would
Yes.
be dumb to do that. The Bengals not having a franchise player. I mean, Andy Dalton got a lot of wins for the Bengals. The Bengals won a lot of games. People forget that. The Bengals, in not so far history, right? I think 4 years ago, 5 years ago, they'd win 11 games, 10 games. They were in playoffs. They were doing all these things. They just never got over the hump. Then it obviously all just started to spiral out of control. A lot of Bengals fans say that Marvin Lewis doesn't get enough credit, by the way, for winning.
Yeah, he won a lot in the regular season.
They had a lot of players, though, too. I mean, they had a lot of good players. Yeah. You remember Hushman Zada back in the day, and Ocho, and Carson Palmer was there, and they had a good offensive line there for a while. They were just never able to get over the hump. And now, after this last year, whenever they were trying to win and they just couldn't do it, a lot of people ask the question of, the Bengals stink. Are they going to stink forever? If they trade out of that first pick and choose not to get their franchise player, I would say that they're destined to stink forever.
The first 5 years that Dalton was there, they had 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, 10 wins, and 12 wins.
That's what Dalton doesn't get any credit either.
No.
Because he obviously has that delicious ginger hair that quite a grow up whenever he doesn't get any credit for being a good football player. Got benched this year on trade day on his birthday, then gets brought back, wins a game, loses a game. I mean, Andy Dalton doesn't get nearly enough credit as well, but the Bengals have never been able to win that thing.